Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology, with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda, either in person, in the council chamber, or remotely. Before testifying, each person shall state their full name and the agenda item they are testifying on. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation. Registered in-person testifiers will be called first. When your name is called, please proceed to the podium and begin by stating your name and the items you'll be speaking on. When I call for anyone who has not registered to speak in person, please line up to the right of the podium, and when it is your turn, proceed to the podium. Begin by stating your name and the items you'll be speaking on. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or phone will then be called. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. When I call for anyone else standing by remotely, please utilize the Zoom raised hand button to indicate your desire to speak. The following are some friendly reminders and tips. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceeding on Olelo, please mute your device at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. For those council members participating outside of the council chamber in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess. If we lose audiovisual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero,
Here.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam,
Present.
Councilmember Kiaina,
Here.
Councilmember Okimoto,
Present.
Councilmember Say, Councilmember Talba, Councilmember
Excuse.
Tupola,
Excuse.
Councilmember Wire,
Here.
Chair Waters.
Here.
Mr. Chair, 7 members are present, 2 members are absent.
Thank you. Members, we now move to the order of the day on page 4. Page 4. The first item on the agenda today is the report of the Permitted Interaction Group established by Resolution 23-40CD1. Vice Chair Kiaina.
Pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-2.5B1 and Resolution 23-40CD1, adopted by the Council on April 19th, 2023, Council members Cordero, Waters, Kiaina, and Wire were authorized to investigate matters relating to real property taxation bills, amending the revised ordinances of Honolulu. The Permitted Interaction Group report, designated as Council Communication 155, is presented today. However, pursuant to HRS Section 92-2.5B1, the Council may not act on the Permitted Interaction Group until the next scheduled Council meeting. The Office of Council Services has advised us that pursuant to an interpretation from OIP, this section of the HRS requires that deliberation, including any discussion and decision-making by the Council on the Permitted Interaction Group's findings and recommendations take place only at the next duly posted Council meeting on July 12, 2023.
Thank you so much. Let's begin with the Permitted Interaction Group's presentation. Councilmember Cordero.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. And great to know that we cannot have discussion until July 12th at the next hearing of the council. I just learned about that. We have so many rules and regulations as council members, whether we can talk or not. And that is one of the many main reasons why we had to start up a permanent interaction group to be able to discuss this, to discuss matters on real property tax. So why do we have an establishment of this permanent interaction group? Well, first off, not only did council members over the course of 2021, 2022, and even this year have introduced more than 30 plus bills relating to real property tax, our communities have also seen across the island a 14.1% increase in overall real property assessed valuations. And as I mentioned, we get choke regulations on how we can talk and everything like that. So under Resolution 23-40 CD1, in accordance with HRS Chapter 92-2.5, we established under the council this permitted interaction group to authorize the PIG to investigate matters relating to real property tax bills and seeking to amend the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021. So we approved this in April and were able to meet 7 times for a month straight, and including a public meeting. Actually, permitted interaction groups are not required to hold public meetings. However, we did hold that so that we could hear and also continue to take up testimony throughout the rest of the PIG as well. So I want to thank everyone who participated in that as well. Next up for the snapshot, as this is the beginning of our discussions as a PIG, the PIG not only recommends the further discussion, but immediate action on such measures as relating to 2022, relating to tax credit and homeowner exemptions. And as I mentioned, the value of having these PIGs, even though restrictive, we were able to hold discussions with our city administration and the public regarding RPT exemptions, credits, dedications, minimum tax, increased transparency, and notice on real property valuation assessments. However, no bills related to real property tax can move forward if this PIG is still enacted. With that, into the next slide, we have to dissolve this first PIG to continue action on the bills, hopefully introduce new bills to take up, and then we strongly recommend that the immediate convening of more PIGs to fully investigate and discuss other real property tax policies. Also, the PIG notes that the council is considering immediate residential real property tax relief options outside the scope of the PIG, and so that is not for discussion for the PIG generally, but have noted that as a understanding. With that, I would like to hand the floor over to our Council Vice Chair, Kia Aina.
Vice Chair Kia Aina.
Thank you so much. The permitted interaction group's goals were to first provide tax relief to those who need it the most and mitigate property tax impacts on the cost of housing for the city's most vulnerable groups, such as low-income households and seniors on fixed incomes. 2, support housing stability and address housing shortages for local residents and families through home ownership and the availability of long-term rentals. 3, fairly allocate tax burdens, including through addressing over and under taxation of certain property owners and providing relief to those impacted by significant and anomalous increases to property valuations. And 4th, ensure the city can continue to meet its obligations and the growing community need for city services. In furtherance of these goals, the PIG discussed the following: updates to the income-based real property tax credit, updates to the homeowner exemptions, amendments to real property tax exemptions, dedications, other credits, compromises, and the minimum tax, revision of existing residential real property tax classifications, restructuring and overhauling the existing real property tax structure, and other real property tax related measures. For immediate action, the PIG recommendations include that the council consider immediately updating the real property tax homeowner exemptions and the income eligibility threshold for the real property tax credit by agendizing for third and final reading two measures identified in this report, including Bill 37, 2022, CD1, to increase the income eligibility threshold of the real property tax credit from $60,000 to $80,000, and Bill 40, 2022, CD1, together with a proposed FD1, to increase the homeowner's exemption from $100,000 to $220,000 and raise the senior exemption from $140,000 to $160,000. As it relates to income-based real property tax credit, the real property tax credit is designed to provide relief to income-qualified homeowners who may struggle to pay their real property tax, many of who are senior citizens. In order to be eligible, owners must have a home exemption and therefore live in their homes. They cannot own any other property, and the combined gross income of the homeowners cannot exceed $60,000. The tax credit is the difference between 3% of the homeowner's income and the amount of the assessed real property tax for the property. The PIG discussed Bill 31, 2022, Bill 37, 2022, and Bill 38, 2022, all which would amend income thresholds. Although the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, of course, have the fiscal numbers for those who are currently eligible, they do not have the fiscal impacts for these bills. The income threshold was last updated in 2024. It was updated from $50,000 to $60,000, and $60,000 was approximately 80% of the AMI for a household of two. The 80% AMI for a household of two in 2022 is $83,850. So the objectives of the bills we are considering is to account for increased cost of living and inflation, expand eligibility to more homeowners, account for impacts of increased property valuation, and of course, to provide tax relief to the city's most vulnerable, those that make substantially less than AMI, including seniors on fixed income and support housing stability. I will note that the Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission recommended adjustments for inflation and the statewide property valuations. Therefore, the PIG recommendation is to take immediate action on Bill 37, 2022, CD1, to increase income eligibility threshold of real property tax credit from $60,000 to $80,000. As it relates to homeowner exemptions, the homeowner exemption is designed to provide relief to homeowners who occupy their homes as their primary residence. It reduces the amount of property taxes that are owed by exempting a certain amount from being taxed. The standard exemption is $100,000 for all homeowners. Homeowners 65 years of age or over qualify for a $40,000 exemption under current law. At $3.50 per $1,000 tax rate, the current home exemption reduces the property taxes owned by all owner-occupants by $350 and by seniors over 65 by $420. Homeowners with homeowners exemptions enjoy lower tax rates no matter the value of their homes because they would be classified as residential instead of residential A. The PIG discussed Bill 7, 2022, Bill 35, 2022, and Bill 40, 2022, all which would increase standard homeowners exemption and homeowners exemption for homeowners over 65. The fiscal impacts at $3.50 tax rate per $1,000 would be that an increase of standards homeowners exemption from $100,000 to $120,000 will cost $5.3 million. To increase homeowners exemption for 65 and over from $140,000 to $160,000 would also be an additional cost of $5.3 million. The homeowners exemption was last increased in 2019. It went from $80,000 to $100,000, and for those who are 65 and older from 120,000 to 140,000. The reason for our consideration of new measures is to account for increased cost of living and inflation, account for impacts of increased property valuations, and of course to further the PIG goals, which is to support housing stability and provide relief to those impacted by significant increases to property valuations. It is also noteworthy that the Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission recommended adjustments for inflation and the statewide property valuations. Therefore, the PIG recommendation is immediate action on Bill 40, 2022, CD1, FD1, to increase homeowners exemption from 100,000 to 120,000 and senior exemption from 140,000 to 160,000, and continue the conversation about how to update its value over time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And so just where we left off there. So the council, it's recommended in the report that the council take immediate steps to forward the conversation on policies addressing the areas listed above. So tax exemptions, dedications, credits, compromises, and the minimum tax, transparency and valuation of assessed values, required notice and details to homeowners, existing residential property tax classifications, including in particular policies that would amend residential aid thresholds and tiers, and restructure or overhaul of the existing real property tax structure. So just examples of that. I know BFS is compiling a list of all the potential dedications that need to be evaluated as we look forward at overhauling or addressing the needs in our real property tax structure. You know, there's been hearings going on right now in terms of those that have filed appeals for their increased valuation. The deadline, of course, did pass already to make that appeal, but the actual hearings are going on, and of course, appeals may stem from that. And so part of the process also will be looking at the impact of the dramatic increases in property values that our residents experienced. So, you know, going to real property tax exemptions, dedications, credits, compromises, and minimum tax. Providing real property tax relief is a means to promote specific social, land use, or economic objectives. One way the city provides tax relief is through exemptions. So what exemptions do is they reduce the taxable value of a property on which taxes are computed, either by a predetermined dollar amount or a percentage of gross evaluation. So for example, right now, homeowner occupant exemption means that $100,000 is taken off of your property value before your real property tax amount is calculated. A dedication allows a property owner to commit to the imposition of certain conditions on the dedicated lands for a specified period of time in return for reduced property taxes, and may be used to promote certain land uses, such as preservation or historic residential real property, or in particular, particularly prevalent in District 2, ag dedications. Credit is generally an amount deducted from the amount of taxes owed for property in the following tax year. Compromise is an agreement between the city and the taxpayer of an amount due for real property taxes. And minimum tax, the minimum amount of tax a property owner can pay. So the current minimum tax is $300, and so that means that everybody would at least have to pay that on their real property interest. So if we look specifically at real property tax exemptions, dedications, credits, compromises, and the minimum tax, there are several measures introduced. The numbers are listed on the screen. So exemptions include Bill 42, 35, Bill 40, Bill 60, Bill 34, more recently introduced by our office, Bill 34, 2023, which has an additional increase on the homeowner exemption amount and the component exemption amount. Credits would be Bill 31, Bill 37, and Bill 38. Dedications would be Bill 59, compromises Bill 9, and then of course the minimum tax bill would be Bill 30. So in looking at Bill 30 specifically, I think the recommendation that was agreed upon was that the minimum tax for DHHL homestead property should remain at the current level of $300. And then the minimum tax for historic residential properties should be increased to $1,000. Of course, noting that this whole process will be subject to public input as bills go through council. In terms of revising existing residential property tax classifications, for real property tax purposes, real property in the city and county of Honolulu is classified into general classes based on its highest and best use and other criteria. So ROH Revised Ordinances of Honolulu, Section 8-7.1 identifies two primary residential tax classes, a residential and residential A. So parcels that are improved with 2 or less single-family dwellings that are worth more than $1 million and do not have a home exemption and is zoned residential or dedicated for residential use, that's residential A. Parcels that are vacant and zoned residential with more than $1 million, or condominiums worth more than $1 million without a homeowner exemption. So there were multiple measures introduced from 2021 to 2023 to revise the existing residential classes. So bills that would amend which parcels are classified as residential A based on its value were Bill 20, Bill 27, and Bill 29. And then bills that would amend the classification and treatment of property that is rented out long-term would be Bill 24, Bill 25, Bill 27. So bills are also introduced to treat vacant residential parcels differently to incentivize occupation of residential properties. So that's Bill 49 and Bill 9. And of course, we had the presentation from Maui County about the structure that they use. And so I do think that, you know, all of these conversations when we're looking at what role does an increased homeowner exemption play, you know, what role does a reclassification play, I think the ultimate outcome is going to dictate what particular process applies, right? Because if we change the classification structure, you know, the exemption wouldn't be applicable. Of course, if we maintain what we have, then, you know, we'd be working within the context of the exemption and other frameworks. So the PIG recommends that the council may want to take immediate steps to revise the existing residential A-tier thresholds and rates, remove long-term rentals from being classified as residential A, and create a supplemental vacancy tax or empty homes tax. The PIG notes, however, that this might be better addressed through restructuring or overhauling the current tax structure as mentioned. Okay. Actually, I might have gone too far. Did I share? My apologies. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So for members of the public, that's a lot to digest. But basically, the idea here was we looked at numerous bills in order to try to figure out how we can help local people get a tax break, how we can keep local people in Hawaii in their homes. And while we'd love to take immediate action on these bills, Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-2.5, subsection B, subsection 1C, states that it requires that a permitted interaction group, when it has been formed to investigate a matter relating to board business, a board's deliberation and decision-making on the investigated matter can only occur at a duly noticed meeting that is held subsequent to the meeting at which the findings and recommendations of the investigation were presented to the board. So as Councilmember Kiana pointed out, today we're just presenting this to the rest of the council and to the public. And we hope to take immediate action at the next duly scheduled full council meeting, which we want to do as soon as possible. And just to recap what these are is Bill 37. Bill 37, again, put in its most simple form. It provides tax relief to people who need it the most, people who are low-income earners. And in Hawaii, $80,000 is considered low income, right? And we're capping, or this working class, but it's capping your tax at 3% of your income. That's Bill 37, CD1. And then Bill 40, we're recommending that we take immediate action on Bill 40, which increases the homeowner's exemption. significantly, both for everyone across the board, but especially for kupuna. We want to keep our kupuna safe in their homes, and that's what Bill 40 does. We're also recommending that since there's so much to digest and there's so much to go through during this permitted interaction group, as you just all heard, we gotta reconvene again. We could not vote on Bill 37 or Bill 40 until we dissolve this particular permitted interaction group. And we thought it was important to dissolve it now so that we could take immediate action on Bill 37 and Bill 40 so that it'll take effect next year. We need to get those notices out. We need to let the public know about what this is going to do so that people can file their exemptions. They can file for the low income tax credit. That's why we're dissolving it today. That's why we're going to have another full council meeting to discuss this. As I mentioned, there was a lot of work that went into this. Hours and hours and hours. We deliberated not only in public, but with staff. And therefore, I'd like to take some time, and please read this report. There's a lot of work that went into the report. And again, the idea is to provide long-term tax relief for local families, right? I'd like to thank council staff, Robert, Dina, Michael, Ryan, Jocelyn, April, Duncan, Brannigan, and Somerset. The Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission of 2021 and 2022, especially for their final report. The Budget and Fiscal Services Director Kawano, Deputy Director Castle, and Administrator Steve Takara, and Real Property Assessment Division, and Corporation Counsel, especially Deputy Corporation Counsel Karen Lee, for your hard work. So members, at this time, with your indulgence, I'd like to take testimony. However, my understanding is that we as a group are not allowed to deliberate on this today. Yeah, so I apologize, but that's just the rules. We cannot deliberate on this today. We will have an opportunity to discuss amongst ourselves at the next full council meeting, but we do want to allow the public to testify. And may I ask folks, I know a lot of you are here for a particular reason, and I absolutely will give you all an opportunity to speak. But we have to stick to the rules, and the rules say that we have to talk only about tax relief right now. Yeah. So I do have 3 registered speakers. If you could line up, we have Angela Young, Raquel Achiu, and Chun James, who have signed up to testify on the permitted interaction group related to taxes. And then anybody else who wants to testify related to taxes, absolutely, please come forward and share your manao. So let's start with Angela Young. Angela Young. Is she remote or in person, Mr. Clerk?
Since she is logged in remotely.
Okay, good morning, and please proceed.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and the council members. Angela Melody Young, testifying in strong support, and of course, just very appreciative of all the work from the council and the staff. And so about the discussion from the PIG meeting, it's a concern for the public. You know, what can we do to bring relief, to support and provide relief for the community in terms of like tax credits. And I talked about Hawaii, how Hawaii is the only state to not have a property tax to support the education system. 5 years ago, a Senate Bill 2922 called for a constitutional amendment to create a real property tax to support schools. However, when it got to the ballot, the justices ruled that the ballot language was ambiguous and it did not say what the funds would be for. So Hawaii did not get a new source of potential funding for the statewide school system. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for the testify? Seeing none, thank you very much. Number 2, Raquel Achiu. Mr. Clerk, is Raquel here today?
I have a question. Okay, point of order, Chair. If we do not allow for discussion, does that mean we cannot ask questions?
Good point.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning. Welcome. Please
Good
proceed.
morning. Thank you, everybody. With respect to holding discussions for a later meeting, I'll just make 2 points just for consideration. In our last meeting, I did indicate that I was going through an appeal process for my mom's property. That I believe is something that definitely needs to be considered and reviewed. I'm not sure that that is in place other than just to say that they gave an opportunity to appeal. And it's a bit, you go in pretty defeated as it is. They pretty much tell you that they cannot do anything for you. I sat in a room with a significant amount of other elderly kupuna people who were appealing. So it was a little hard to watch and be told that, oh, well, that's what it is. Another point that I think hasn't been realized that we've just gone through is, for example, my mom's property, her property tax increased her mortgage payment by $500 every month. Because of that increase, she has now lessened her qualification for a HELOC. Because of that increase, it significantly impacted that decision process. So I think that's another angle to really consider when we try to provide something for relief for our kupuna. And I look forward to further discussion at the later meetings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Chun James.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Aloha, good morning. Yes, we can.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I will make it short. It is important and to discuss this, and I surely appreciate the PIG, and I hope that we will have more because it's a very complicated issue. But just for the first testifier talking about the state property taxes for school, you know, it really doesn't matter whether the taxes come from the state or the city. It comes from the same source of taxpayers. But I think that the main thing is that we need to decide whether we want to help our local residents stay here and to continue to be able to stay here, or be pushed out through gentrification. It's ironic to say that even those who are making 100,000 are struggling in Hawaii. So it seems that everybody is needy except the super affluents. But I do appreciate this discussion. It's needed, and we can certainly continue to share ideas and plans and solutions. So thank you, and we look forward to continuing dialogue on this very important issue. Mahalo.
Thank you so much. Mr. Clerk and members of the audience, is there anybody else who'd like to testify on the permitted interaction group relating to long-term tax relief?
Mr. Chair, we have one more testifier logged on.
Please proceed.
Thank you. This is Natalie Wassa for the record. Thank you so much for this. It's long overdue having an overhaul of our system. I just want to make 3 points. First of all, one of the things that you folks really didn't touch on in your presentation is documentation. And I mentioned that in my testimony. I think this is really important for the city to review what they're asking taxpayers to provide for the credit, for exemptions, for all that stuff. And so I ask that the budget committee hold a presentation, and this can also serve as a source of education for the public on how much these credits are, the thresholds, that kind of thing, what's required. With respect to the exemptions, I'm a little bit concerned that you didn't even go into the other areas of exemptions, such as the charitable organizations. And I ask that you look at that. Ask BFS how many of those corporate nonprofits are actually not charitable, because that's the source of additional revenues, in my opinion. And then the last thing is just please keep in mind that a simple system is more efficient, less costly, and it's better to easier to understand. So taxpayers know what to expect and can provide meaningful input to you when you propose changes to the law. So thank you so much for having this presentation, and look forward to additional discussions in the future.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, is there anybody else wishing to testify?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the video conference testifiers.
I believe we have a member of the audience who'd like to testify. Good morning. If you could just press the on button and...
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Wallen Christian. Sorry, I was running a little late. I'm not too familiar with the bill, but when I hear property taxes, it's a shame that the people of Hawaii, they're paying for it when we have a vast amount of resources to not let people of Hawaii to pay for the property taxes. Let me give you a quick example. Why aren't we taxing the hotels more? Why aren't we taxing the foreign investors more? Why are we taxing our people? That's why, as the young lady said, the people are moving because it's too expensive. We need to keep our people here. Your job as elected officials is to fight for the people, not fight against the people. This is where we need to go. And I really, truly believe that all of you want to do the right thing. Maybe you're influenced not to do the right thing, but you need to get back to why you went into this job. That is to serve the people. Look at your U.S. Constitution. Your job as elected officials is to stand for the people, not go against them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any further testimony, members? Or Mr. Clerk? Please come forward. Aloha and welcome.
Aloha. My name is Nikhil Khurana. I'm accompanied by Pierre Watts, who's a tenant of the Kapiolani Village area, where City Council earlier this year passed exemptions on a property that's to be built. We're here talking a little bit about tax exemptions for affordable housing. Because of this development, Ku'ile Place, 130 tenants are being displaced from their homes. This includes Kupuna, like Auntie Donna, who just joined us.
Unfortunately, we have to confine our comments to the permitted interaction.
Will do.
And any of the bills that were on there, you're free to talk about.
Okay. We're just here today navigating this complicated bureaucratic process because we'd like, a lot of tenants do not even know this project is happening. And we've talked to people who are not sure why they're being displaced. So as we talk about tax exemptions here today, we want to bring these concerns to the forefront. So we humbly request City Council to put us somehow on the agenda for next month so that tenants can address concerns. So we can keep tenants like these guys in affordable housing.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, Council Communication 155 has been presented to the Council. There are no items for the Committee on the Whole or Executive Session. Vice Chair Kia'aina for the motion to adjourn.
I move that the meeting stand adjourned until Wednesday, June 7th, 2023, following this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any objections? Noting no objections, the Council stands adjourned until, let's take 5 minutes, members, and we'll start up our 10 o'clock agenda. So we'll stand adjourned until 10:40.